I sat down and simply cried.
Crying man. I don't like this file. This file is my father just died. Literally. And he was an artist, like myself. And I thought it would be a very good way to include him in my art forever, to record my grief over his death and use that in my masterpiece 1984. There's several reasons why 1984 is so good. My version of 1984, of course, the book is great. But also, it was one of the darkest years of my life. I was absolutely fucking miserable the entire time I was making that book. And it really came out in that miserable book and the performance thereof. Probably no one's going to watch this video, which is why I'm perfectly happy talking about this. Because sometimes I get comments on 1984 saying, "Wow, that was a really great book. I hope Mr. Parker enjoyed making this as much as we enjoyed listening to it." And the truth is, no, I didn't. I was absolutely fucking miserable, depressed that entire goddamn year. Because it was miserable. It was a miserable time in my life. My father had esophageal cancer, and I had been watching him waste away for 3 years. And just before I finished 1984, he died. So right at the end, when Winston is at his worst, so was I. And that's kind of why 1984 is as emotive as it is. But despite how much I hate this file, I do like giving my father another lease of life every time I use it or one of the many pieces like it in my art. I only sorry. I only got to perform with him in my art live once. One time. He was in a short film that I did, well, actually a web series where I played the big bad guy, and he was in one scene as an extra, basically, a businessman round a conference table, and he was on it like that was his last year, so it made him very, very tired just to show up in a suit. The suit looked massive on him because, his body had wasted away. Cancer does that to a person. And he sort of sat there for about an hour performing, and then drove home, and that was it. I played music with him in his band a few times. I'd do rhythm guitar. He played lead. He was a fucking magic musician, man. He was so good, so much better than me. And that was great. But I very rarely got to include him in my art. So hence this file. And Alice in Wonderland, which was my attempt to do a little mental health work for myself, so it wouldn't be completely miserable, and also made on his behalf for his grandchildren, who he absolutely adored. And I wanted them to have something to remember him by, but they could not care less because they don't really know what's going on. They're very, very young, they didn't really understand what was going on. So anyway, Anyway, here we go.
Wail quickly suppressed.
Sorry
And
about
then
that
there was
digression.
silence. Deep, awful silence which chilled.